Hello everyone, this is, well, my first impressions video on Yunara. I think Yunara is a very cool champion. Okay, I have already, it's not a reaction video, I've seen her video already. And I wanted to talk about my first thoughts as someone who's played primarily ADC for the last several years. I peaked Masters playing primarily ADC on mostly Callista. And yeah, I'll give my first opinions, talk about some builds, runes, theorycraft some ideas about her playstyle, all that, and see how it goes. So, her playstyle is actually very interesting. I would say, functions in a way similar to how Neela functions in terms of gameplay, playstyle, all that. So, first of all, her passive. As you can see, it's a one-liner. It says that her attacks can critically strike for an additional 10% magic damage. So it's this free extra 10% magic damage. It scales with AP, but if you're building crit, then you're not really getting much AP to begin with. So it's kind of an extra passive, that extra little bit of damage. It's not really a passive, but it's good to have regardless. Her ultimate is an empowered state that makes all of her abilities stronger. We'll go back to it when we talk about her other abilities, but just know it's a pretty standard 100 mana, relatively low cooldown, but yeah. Her Q. So passively, it gives her an extra on hit effect and lets her stack Unleash, which is generated from auto attacks, 1 from non-champions, 2 from champions. And at max stats, you can activate this ability for 10 mana to get a massive attack speed steroid for 5 seconds and gain an extra on hit effect, and her attacks become spreading. They spread like this. I'll show it to you again here. So, sorry about that. So how it works is it'll attack whoever you clicked on, and then it'll target whoever is nearby and put a secondary projectile on all of them that deals 30% damage, applies on hit, and lifesteal at 30% as well. So it'll be pretty good in big lumps of enemies, and as far as I know, Runan's Hurricane also works off of this, which means that you'll essentially get those secondary bolts to also spread to other enemies and do more damage, which sounds very cool. Very big attack speed steroid of 80% at max rank. The on-hit effects become a little bit stronger, but that's not the main point of the ability. Next, also no cooldown. It's just based off of her Unleash stacks. Her W. So her W is pretty hard to explain it. Just look at the ability come out, I guess. So she throws it out. It'll stop and slow down on the first champion it hits, the first unit it hits, not just champion. Deal an initial burst of damage and do an AoE damage that deals as much per second, and it slows initially for 1.5 seconds after the initial hit. And the cast time of it also decreases with permanent attack speed, similar to like Jinx W, which is pretty cool. And when she uses her ultimate, yeah, by the way, when she uses her ultimate, her Q is up permanently until her ult's down, and when she uses her ultimate, her W turns into something like a small version of a Zerat Q. You see right here. It's unique for a couple of reasons. One, it has significantly higher AP scalings, less AD scalings, higher base damage. It does split physical and magic damage, which is very cool. And yeah, it's just a really cool ability. It becomes half the cooldown, and it'll be considered an ultimate ability, which will be useful later on for some runes I'm kind of theory crafting in my head right now. Next, her E. It's a very simple ability. It's just a small movement speed boost towards enemies. She gets ghosted, and it's only 2 seconds. No reset capabilities except for her ultimate, resetting it once on first cast, which, like, that's fine, I guess. So it's 10 seconds at rank 1, it goes down to 6. Pretty big movement speed buff that increases towards champions. It's a very simple ability though, you'd probably max it last. It's not very influential, especially considering the fact that the cooldown of it doesn't matter as much because you're going to reset the cooldown of it by casting ultimate, and the ultimate version of it doesn't even get stronger based on your E rank because it's connected to her ultimate. You can see here, her ultimate will increase her E dash distance. So her E becomes a dash and when she uses her ultimate. Like this. And it can go over walls as well. Like that. It's like similar to a Lucian E if you had to ask. But again, this is also considered an ultimate ability, which can be useful. And yeah, that is her kit. It's a pretty simple kit. It's not very complicated, which is pretty shocking coming from Riot. But her entire kit revolves around her Q, which is very, very interesting. because it's an AoE ability that applies on hit to everything, and it benefits from critical strikes as well. So, her playstyle will be a lot like stacking up your passive, your Q, and then when you want to fight, you activate it, use your E to go in. Your bread and butter, because of how your ultimate resets your E, is you'll do E, Alt, E to close the gap. Your W becomes half its cooldown, I think, over here. Yeah, has half its cooldown in her ultimate. But you should probably use Alt and then W, because your W will go on cooldown before you use Alt. So it doesn't reset that, and then it'll mess everything up. So E, Alt, E, W, and then just spam your auto attacks because your Q is up permanently during this duration. And yeah, she's very much an auto attack focused champion, not very ability focused. Like, sure, her abilities do good damage, but her W is pretty much only useful as an ability if you're doing AP. Otherwise, your main damage is from your auto attacks and your Q being active. Your E is kind of just a repositioning tool. It's just an extra. It's not a really big part of her kit. But yeah, that's how she works. I made a little notepad of some stuff which I think would be interesting. I looked through all the items and runes to make sure I don't miss anything when I'm talking about it. But yeah, what I have in mind is going for a lethal tempo because you can stack it up very easily with how much attack speed you get from her Q. Now you might say, well, if she has a lot of attack speed to begin with, can't you overcap it by accident? And sure, that's a possibility. In which case you could go press the attack instead, but I don't recommend you go Conqueror or Fleet because she's not melee. She gets significantly less benefits from it, and the other two just benefit her more. That's just the reality of it. Triumph, because her mana costs are pretty low. It's 100 for ultimate, 10 for Q, 60 for W, 35 for E. It's pretty cheap. It's not terribly expensive, so you can Triumph. Although Presence of Mind isn't bad by any means. Alacrity, because I feel like she'd benefit more from attack speed than lifesteal, but if you're going for a crit build, you could consider going for a Legend Bloodline instead, because you're not going to build a lifesteal item until like 4th item. But that also depends on the champion, right? Like Kaisa doesn't build lifesteal and she doesn't go Alacrity either because she needs her passive like stat requirements to get her abilities evolved. I think Countdown is better than Coup de Grace. I don't think she go last stand on her because of how her kit works. She's definitely a champion that wants to be in a fight for a very long time. So you want to do as much damage at the start so they start running away from you and you can pop off more. Next, I think this is the most interesting part. I think Domination with Ultimate Hunter is extremely interesting because of how her ultimate and her basic abilities all get lower cooldowns in her ultimate. So I think Ultimate Hunter might be a go-to for her. I'm not too sure about Axiom Arcanist because he wouldn't benefit much from the cooldown reduction, and her E doesn't do damage, so it's just her W that gets the damage buff. So maybe not Axiom Arcanist, but for sure Ultimate Hunter could be very useful. Taste of Blood as just a filler rune. You could totally use Deep Ward, Sixth Sense, or whatever, but Taste of Blood's pretty consistent. And if you don't feel like thinking, Inspiration with boost in Cosmic Insight or Sorcery with Absolute Focus in Gathering Storm is a no-brainer. Next, builds. I was thinking you start Deep Blade into Pot, into Berserker Screws. I think that's pretty consistent. I don't think Sorcerer Shoes will ever be useful on her because her magic damage is kind of like an extra. It's not her main source of damage. You should only go for that if you're going AP. If you're gonna go on hit, then your core build should be either Bork or Kraken Slayer first, followed by Rage Blade, followed by another attack speed item like Rune Dancer, Phantom Dancer, or even Terminus. Honestly, it's not a bad idea. But I think just based off of the fact that Runa's Hurricane works really well with how her Q works, I think you should probably build it. If you're going crit, I think for sure, no matter what, you should build Untolerant Infinity Edge as your first 2 items. With how much attack speed you get for free from her Q, I think you can benefit from just building raw damage, kind of like how Neela works, right? She gets attack speed from her Q, so she builds full damage to capitalize on that. Which means you could probably go for defensive boots or even swiftness boots as well. And then you build a armor pen item as your 3rd item. I think that's pretty consistent. And then you can build lifesteal defensive items. You can even build lasagnas if you want for your build because you have so many AP scalings. Your lasagnas isn't gonna go unused in terms of stats. The dudes that you go for AP, let's talk about it right now. I think you should always go for Malignance. Talk about here. Malignance plus Nashers plus Shadow Flame. And they can probably build like Zanias, Rabadons, I don't know, Banshees, Void, not Void Staff. She does a lot of mixed damage, but like something like this. I think these three should be your core build because Malignance works off of her ultimate, considering everything in ultimate ability. It makes all of their cooldowns lower and makes her W proc Malignance very consistently. Nashers for the attack speed and all the on-hit effects. Shadow Flame so you can crit and therefore benefit from her passive. But yeah, that's kind of the builds I've thought of, the runes I've thought of. I guess if you change runes for AP as well, you could probably go like Dark Harvest or something. I don't know. I don't play enough AP marksmen to be able to answer that to you, but like, yeah, that's kind of my initial thought process from looking at her build, her playstyle, her gameplay. Overall, she's a great champion. I think she'll benefit most as a not as a hyper carry, I wouldn't say that, but she's very good at short skirmishes the way her kit works because her ultimate um is a very good steroid for temporary fights, but I feel like she'd run out of juice very quickly in a fight. So in short skirmishes, she's great. In big, long team fights, probably not. But that's my first thoughts. I haven't been able to play her. She'll be out on PvE in early July, I think, and I'll try and put a gameplay out for her during then. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed my first impressions. This is everything I thought of when I first saw her video. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.